Hello, it's Monday, June the 7th, and we are today in the 30th chapter of Isaiah. We're almost halfway through it. We probably will be going a little slower in the second half of Isaiah. These particular chapters dealing with all kinds of international politics and the folly of 8th century BC politicians and rulers. Today we are dealing, we've jumped ahead from 722 and the destruction of Samaria that occupied the previous chapters. And today we are right at the end of the century in those tumultuous years of 705 to 701 BC, and again it starts with the alliance, and you see there in verse 1 an alliance and a depiction of them going down to Egypt. You'll see in verses 6 and 7 an oracle on the beasts of the Negev, heading now towards Egypt, through a land of trouble and anguish, from where come the lioness and the lion, the adder and the flying fiery serpent. They carry their riches on the backs of donkeys and their treasures on the humps of camels to a people that cannot profit them. Egypt's help is worthless and empty. Therefore I've called her Rahab, who sits alone, or you could translate that Rahab, who, the do-nothing. And he's mocking them. It's a picture of a caravan taking Jewish treasures, money, jewels, cloth, whatever, to Egypt, because they're trying to buy Egypt's protection. It would all come to nothing. This was a complete waste of money because Egypt was totally overthrown by the Assyrians. And it's the narrative of the folly, once again, of leaving God, leaving his promise, leaving his word. The only alliance that mattered was the covenant that God had made with his people. And what they got for their own alliance was nothing. They got absolutely nothing. An entirely secular worldview has crept in to Judah, to Jerusalem, to the people of God in Zion. And God is warning them again and again, a clarion call. Chapter 30 is a clarion call for God's people to return to their senses, to return to God, to return to faith, a return to trust. And at the very heart of the chapter, in verse 18, therefore the Lord waits to be gracious to you. And you have this picture of a waiting God, waiting for his people to come to their senses, to repent of their secular worldview, and to come back in faith and trust to God again. In verses 23, he will give rain for the seed with which you sow the ground, and bread, the produce of the ground, which will be rich and plenteous. In that day your livestock will graze in large pastures. And once again, Isaiah is a poet, he's a visionary, and he depicts a glorious future for God's people. It's a little glimpse again in terms of produce, again in terms of a garden, and the production of food and so on. A picture that Isaiah uses a great deal, and it's a far off glimpse of what is in store for God's people. Well, tomorrow we'll look at chapter 31, but have a wonderful day.